the reason that could be explained here is that they want to address misclassification of port drivers, which we as an association recognize as a serious issue. And we agree that anyone who is under one of those types of contracts, we don't like those types of contracts. And by those types, I mean lease purchase agreements. And lease purchase agreements are not just a California thing. They're not just a port thing. They're actually all over the place in the industry. And, we could spend a whole segment just on those, but I do think that is what they are targeting when it comes to the trucking industry and when it comes to port drivers. And we agree that state generals, attorneys generals should do something about those types of things. But this AB5 and the ABC 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call it, it'll get rid of those maybe, but at the same time, it's something very problematic for what we will refer to as traditional leased owner operators.
Right, exactly. And so can you explain how the ABC test works and how they're sort of, using the ABC test as the justification for this bill?
Sure. So the ABC test considers all workers to be employees unless the hiring business demonstrates these following factors are established. 1, that the worker is free from the control and direction of the hirer in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for the performance of the work and in fact. Number 2, that the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. And number 3, that the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature that is involved in the work performed. Now, I know that was a mouthful, and so what I'm gonna make it easy for everybody listening, and that number 2, or sometimes we refer it to the B prong of the ABC test, that is the one that is the most broadly written and is the most problematic for leased carriers, because leased carriers are going to be performing the same type of work that the company is doing, but they're going to be leasing their equipment to them and getting paid for driving that equipment. So yeah. And I think that's where we are with this, and that they just don't understand that was put in place decades ago, and since then we've put in place what are called truth in leasing regulations and laws, and those things help protect owner operators, and as long as those are followed, then everything should be the way it should be for an owner operator.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the fact that the owner operate, if the bill was intended to protect the owner operators and to make sure they're properly classified, and there is backlash from the owner operators saying, no, we are currently classified, thanks, but no thanks, that should be a sign that clearly there's something off with this bill, at least as it relates to the trucking aspect of it. And, as we've seen many times, particularly when it does come to transportation policy, what happens in California tends not to stay in California and tends to matriculate around the country. So I have to ask, what you at OOIDA are hearing about some of the ramifications nationwide that this may have.
Well, we're not really sure. Now, I will qualify that with saying, we do know that New Jersey has a similar ABC test, and it's something that there is some opposition to. But like you said, what tends to happen in California doesn't stay in California, and it does set a precedent. It does set a concerning precedent that we would like to see some things addressed, and we have asked the state of California for some answers to questions as to how our members could comply with this new legislation. And just this morning, it just so happens that we sent another letter. We made another attempt at communicating with the governor of California, and I'll send this to you after we get off of here, and you can see we presented a pretty long list of questions that we think are pretty legitimate, and we think that if they were answered, you know, we could figure out a way to make this work, but there's going to have to be some provisions put in place in order for that to happen.